Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad to have you here. So for today's tutorial we'll be learning how to draft our princess darts bustier. If you've been following my videos, you know that I already have a tutorial on how to draft a princess dart bustier, and in that video I told us that I'll be teaching us two methods. So that was the first method, why this is the second method. So if you are yet to watch that, I'm going to put the link on the description box. The difference is that there's not much difference, sha, but the thing is that for the first method you can actually um cut it straight on your fabric without using a pattern paper. That is that you can go ahead and cut it straight on your fabric. But for this method you have to first cut it on your pattern paper, then place the pattern paper on your fabric to cut. So that is that. So when you watch the two and anyone you feel is okay for you, you can go ahead and use that. So that is that. So what I'm going to do now, as you can see, I've already draw out a box. This is for the front panel and this is for the back panel. You know, I used my box. The box I'm using is 36. 36 divided by 2 is 18. Then 18 plus 16 inch, that is 24. So I have a total of 24 here. So after that, I now went and divided 24 into 2. That's, I have 12 inch here. That's from here to here is 12 inch, right from here to here is 12 inch. So depending on your client, so that's what you will do. So what I'm going to do next is to take my horizontal lines. By my horizontal lines I mean my hip line, sorry, my bust line, under bust line, and my waistline. So that is that. From my shoulder to my bust point is 9.5. 9.5. Then from my shoulder to my under bust is 13.5. Then from my shoulder to my front half length it's 17, which is this 17. So that's what I'm going to note here because I want to have a straight line. 9.5, that's bust point, and 13.5 under bust. So I'm going to connect it with a straight line. So that is that. Then for the back, you know, we don't really need our bust line here. So what I'll be marking is my back half length. My back half length is 15.5. 15.5. Of course, from my former videos I've already explained that our front half length and back half length are not the same. So that is that. So the next thing I'm going to do is to take the shoulder the shoulder I'm using is 15. 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. So I'm going to note 7.5. I'll come down by 1 inch. That's to get my shoulder slope. Then mark the 3-inch standard. Then I'm going to connect where I came down by 1 to the 3-inch I marked here to get my shoulder slope. So I'm going to do same for here, and here I'm going to mark 7.5, mark 3-inch, then come down by 1, so the next is the neckline. The neckline, I'm using the standard neckline. Feel free to alter it the way you want. That's for the front, wideness of 3, depth of 3. Then for the bag, I'm going to use a wideness of 3, then depth of 1. So the next is my chest line. For my chest line, I'm going to divide my bust by 6 plus 1.5. The bust I'm using is 36. 36 divided by 6 plus 1.5, which is 7.5. 7.5. 7.5. So this is my chest line. I want to make sure my line is straight, so I'm also going to note it here. You know, I came down by 1, 7.5. So if I'm to start here, it will be 8.5. So that's why I'm marking 8.5. So I want to have a straight line. Remember, let me explain. You know, if I came down by 1 plus the 7.5, which I marked here. But if I'm to start here from the shoulder, it will be 8.5. So that was it. So that you don't get confused and keep wondering why I'm marking that. I just want to make sure that my lines are straight. So this is my chest line, and then I'm going to come down, rule a straight line. You can go ahead and take your shoulder measurement again, which is 7.5. 7.5. The next is to take in the darts. My bust span is 7.5. 7.5 divided by 2 is 3.75. 3.75, which is here. I'm also going to note it here. So for the darts, it all depends on what you want to use. You can use 0.5, 0.75, 1, depending on the person's bust. Depending on the person's bust. So for my bust, I can decide to use 0.5 or 0.75. But take note that if the person has a bigger bust, it's advisable you increase. It's advisable you increase, because if the client has if the client has like, let's say, bust of 48, 50, you know, stuff like that, and you decide to use 0.75, it's not, that's the Bustier is not going to show like that. So that is that. It all depends on the person's bust. So for this tutorial, I'll be using 0.75. So I'm going to take 0.75 on both sides. So this is 0.75, 0.75. So that's that. I want to make sure that what I have is actually 0.75. So I took 0.75 on both sides. Then here I'm going to come down by 1 inch. You can decide to use 1 here, or you can decide to use 0. You can decide to come down by 1, or you can decide to come down by 0.5. It's still the same. It's still the same. So take note. So what I'm going to do is to connect the dots. So that is that. And I'm also going to do the same here. I'm using a ball span of 7.5. So 7.5 divided by 2, it's 3.75. So I'm going to also mark it at 3.75 here, here. Then 3.75 here. So the next is to take in the dart. So for the back, you can decide to still use the what you use there, that's 0.75, or you can decide to use 0.5. So for this tutorial, I'll just use 0.5 here. I'll use 0.5 here. Take note that you can use 0.5 or 0.75. So 0.5. And I'll come down by 1. So the next now is I'm going to come to the shoulder. That's to get our armhole curve. So I'm going to take the midpoint of this, which is 7.5. 7.5 divided by 2, it's 3.75, which is here. Sorry, which is here, 3.75. So I'm going to come in by 0.75, which is here. And then I'll connect. Then to know where the curve is going to stop, I'm going to take my bust measurement. My bust measurement is 36 divided by 4, it's 9. 9.0.25 is allowance. The is allowance is actually optional. It's 9.25. So that's it. 36 divided by 4, it's 9. 9 plus 0.25, that's for each allowance, it's 9.25. That's what I marked here. So I'm going to connect. So I'm going to do the same here. 7.5, the midpoint is 3.75 here. Then my bust measurement is 36 divided by 4, 9 plus 0.25 is allowance, 9.25 here. So I'll connect. So the next is to take in the waist measurement. The waist I'm using is 31. 31 divided by 4 is 7.75. So 7.75. This 7.75. But remember that we took in 0.5 on both sides, which is a total of 1.5. So 1.5 plus 7.75 is going to give us 9.25, which is here, 9.25. So I'll go ahead and connect. Then I also come here. So but before I take in my measurement, I'm going to subtract 0.5 here. If you notice, sometimes when you add after sewing your cloth and fixing your zip, there is that excess cloth that comes out around the zip side. So this is going to eliminate that. So that is that. So what I'll do is to connect it to here. Of course, if you've been following my previous videos, you know I explained more on that. So this will eliminate that excess bulk around the zip area. And then I'll take in my measurements. The waist 31 divided by 4 is 7.75 plus 1 inch I took away from here. That's 7.75 plus 1 inch is 8.75. 8.75. So I'll go ahead and connect it. Take note that I didn't start from here, since here will be cut off. So I started here. You see it. So that's that. So the next is to the difference between the front half length and the back half length is 1.5. That's the front half length is 17. 17 minus the back half length, which is 15.5, is 1.5. So I'm going to note it here. 1.5. You see, that's the difference. 1.5. So I'm going to note it here so that when we eventually join our fabric, cut and join, it's going to be the same. And I will come out by 1 inch. That's away from the bust point. Yes, I don't want to have a sharp edge. So that is that. So the next is to take the midpoint of this. You can decide to come down by 4, or you take the midpoint of this. So it all depends where you want your princess dart to start from. So let me see what I will have here. So I'm having almost 9.5. And 9.5 divided by 2, it's 4.75. So I'm going to note 4.75, which is here. Here. So I'm going to so that is that. So what I will do next is I'm going to take 0.5 from both sides. I'm going to take 0.5 from both sides. 0.5, 0.5. I'm trying to make sure that the curve is accurate. So that's that. I took 0.5 from both sides. And then I'm going to, since I took 0.5 from both sides, I'm going to come up by 1. That's to avoid having shortage. So it's here. I'm trying to come up by 1 inch. So see, it's 1 inch. So I'm going to connect to get my new armhole. So the next is to take note of the round underbust. My round underbust is 33. 33 divided by 4 is 8.25. This 8.25. Now, but you see, we have, what we are having here is a little bit more than 9.25. It's a little bit more than 9.25. So, but let's just take it as 9.25. 9.25 minus 8.25, it's 1. It's 1. But then you can decide to also just the 1 divided by 2. You take away half here, half here. Then when you add your seam allowance, it will, add up. Or you can decide to also take note of these that you are going to cut out. So what we are going to cut out from here is, let's say, almost, okay, let's just say it's 0.5. 0.5. So 1 inch that we have excess minus this 0.5, it's 0.5. So we are left with 0.5. So you can decide to mark 0.5 on this side. On this side. Or you divide it into 2. That's you minus 0.5. You minus 0.25 here, 0.25 here. It all depends on what you want to do. Let me explain again. The excess we have here is 1 inch. This is because my round underbust is 33. 33 divided by 4, it's 8.25. 8.25. But you see, we are having almost a little bit more than 9.25. So you see, so 9.25 minus the actual measurement, which is 8.25, is what? 1 inch. So like I said earlier, you can decide to just subtract the 1 inch here, just maybe half, or you take away 1 here. Then when you add up your seam allowance, it's going to align. Or what you do is you take note of this that you are going to cut out. Take note of this that you are going to cut out. Let's say what we have here, it's almost, let's say 0.5. So 1 inch minus 0.5, it's 0.5. So we are left with 0.5. So we have to take it out. So that's what I'm going to do now. And take note that I can decide to just add 0.5 here, or I'll just divide 0.5 by 2, subtract half of it here, half of it here. It all depends on what you want to do. So for this tutorial, what I will just do is I'm going to divide 0.5 by 2, then separate it on both sides. So that is that. So 0.5 divided by 2 is 0.25. So I'm going to note 0.25 here, which is here. 0.25, and I also note 0.25 here. You see, it's 0.25. So that's what I'll do. I hope you understand. Please, if you have any question, let me know on the comment section, please. You see it? I also come here and do same. You see it, and then I'll add it, I'll join it back to the dart leg. So you see it. Please, if you have any question, let me know on the comment section. Let me know in the comment section, please. I'll be glad to answer your question. Let me go over it again. Why I'm subtracting this is the excess that we have after taking in our under bust, or our bust, our under bust measurement. That's the excess that we have. So that's what I'm subtracting here. That's what I'm subtracting here. Please, if you have any question, let me know in the comment section. So that is that. So before I go ahead and cut, I'm going to, come up by half inch. First of all, I'll take note of the midpoint, which is 0.75. This is the midpoint. Then I'll come up by half inch. Of course, if you've been following my previous video, I explained the reason for that. I explained the reason for that. What's wrong with my marker? I think I have to change this marker. So I'm going to so that's that. Like I said earlier, this is very important so that when you eventually fold in the dart, you won't have, and cut on your fabric, you won't have a shortage. So that is it. That is it. So I'll go ahead and cut. Please, if you have any question, let me know on the comment section. Sorry for the back, I almost forgot the princess that what you just do is you can decide to do it the way you do the front. Just take note of the midpoint. The midpoint was here. So what you do is just, so see, then try as much as possible to smoothen out the straight line because you don't want it to be straight. So you see it. So that is that. So you see it. So let me continue with the cutting. So that's that for the back. So, and then for the front, you see the front, I'm going to open up here, then close this. Please, if you are yet to watch my video on manipulations, you can go ahead and do that. On that manipulation. You see what I mean earlier, when you close it up, you see it. Let me close up this. So when you close it up, you see the reason why I added this. You can just decide to use the marker, to Join them like this. You see it, so that you don't have excess. Then you continue your cutting. And then this is the front. You can see we've closed in the darts. You can actually use your your masking tape to close it properly. So you see it, I've closed up the bust dart. So the bust dart has now been transferred to the armpit. You see it. So you place on your fabric and cut. So that is that. I hope you learned something from this video. If you do, please do not forget to give me a thumbs up and share with your friend. And if you are yet to subscribe, please click on the subscribe button and hit on the notification bell for you to be notified each time I make a new upload. So till I come your way next time with another interesting video, do have a lovely day. Bye bye.